Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Ms. Anne-Marie Sorrell.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I am your host, Anne-Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. Today, as always, we have another exciting guest, but before we get started with our program, I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this broadcast possible. Broward Health, AARP, the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. If you or someone you know is experiencing loss of memory or memory problems, please contact their research team for more information at 877-686-6444. Now, today I am joined by the Honorable Keon Hardemon, Miami-Dade County Commissioner. Welcome, Commissioner Hardemon.
Let me unmute. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Listen, anytime that I can be amongst family, a fellow rattler, I'm always in good company.
Hey, we know how to have a good time and get the work done.
Exactly. Now, I had the opportunity to work with you a few years back in Overtown. So I just want to, first of all, publicly say kudos to you and all the amazing work that you did and have done in Overtown and Liberty City. And I just look forward to your contribution and all the things you're going to be doing in your new role as County Commissioner.
Thank you very much. I mean, many people may not know this, but I mean, you were instrumental in helping us brand the community of Overtown. So we appreciate all the hard work and dedication that you put there, and really made Experience Overtown a place and a brand that people recognize.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I want to officially, because we know everybody in Miami knows you and other places, of course, but I want to make sure that our audience really knows who you are. So I'm just going to briefly go through your bio for our audience before we jump into our discussion.
Okay.
The Honorable Keon Hardemon was born and raised in Miami's Liberty City neighborhood in Miami-Dade County. He's a product of Florida's educational institutions and received a bachelor's degree in business and management and a master's degree in business administration from Florida A&M University, where he also became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He went on to work in corporate America at Pfizer, then later attended the University of Miami School of Law. After obtaining his law degree in 2010, he remained home to serve his community and joined the Miami-Dade County Public Defender's Office as an assistant public defender. In 2013, he became the youngest District 5 commissioner in the history of the city of the Miami City Commission. With the City of Miami, Keon Hardemon was chairman of the Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency. Under his leadership, multiple projects for revitalization of Overtown were initiated, including acquisition of Red Rooster Overtown, sister restaurant to Red Rooster Harlem, owned by renowned chef Marcus Samuelson, and the Town Park Plaza North Rehabilitation Program, a $15 million renovation of one of Overtown's oldest multifamily housing developments that sustained neglected repairs for decades. He left the City of Miami as a four-time commission chairman in November 2020 when he was elected to the Miami-Dade Board of County Commissioners. Within his first few months as a county commissioner, he sponsored legislation to secure nearly $90 million to combat gun violence from the FTX naming rights agreement of the former Miami Heat Arena. Commissioner Hardemon serves District 3, which includes Miami-Dade County's historic Black neighborhoods, along with the county's popular art and entertainment districts to include Overtown, Wynwood, Brownsville, Liberty City, the Design District, the Upper East Side, and Little Haiti. Commissioner Hardemon is currently the chairman of Miami-Dade County's Airports and Economic Development Committee, chairman of the Tourist Development Council, member of the Florida Bar Association, Wookie D. Ferguson Jr. Bar Association, and many other prestigious professional and social organizations. So welcome again, Commissioner Hardemon.
Thank you very much.
So since you've been elected, and I'm not surprised at all, of course, you've wasted no time getting to work and combating some of the toughest issues in Miami-Dade County. Share with us what some of your top priorities have been.
as always, I believe in economic development, right, for our communities. And I think that it's important that we franchise our communities by giving them opportunities to truly have spaces that mean a lot to the people who live there and to visitors who want to come there. So, it's important for me to combat one, poverty. It's important for me to be able to help provide jobs and entertainment to neighborhoods. And it's important for me to really and truly make the neighborhoods look and feel better than they used to. And because I'm one of those people that lives in that neighborhood. I'm living in some of the tougher neighborhoods to actually serve. And so I want my neighborhood to look better for me and for my children, just the same as I want it for you and your children. And I honestly believe that you should not have to move out of your neighborhood to live in a better neighborhood. Right. And so as property values begin to rise in places like Overtown and Liberty City and Little Haiti, we believe through this office that people who already live there, who own their homes and who are renting those spaces should enjoy the benefit of all the things that are coming to those spaces. And so from the city of Miami to today in the county, I'm just trying to continue that legacy of making the spaces a better place for everyone to be.
I love that. And I think that, economic development is at the heart of everything that when we talk about socioeconomic issues, right? And sometimes we don't think about how economics play in education, job creation, wealth creation for the long run, cleaning up communities, housing. It's just so broad and vast. Public safety, so many different aspects of that go into economic development. So again, kudos to you. I know one of your initiatives that we're going to really focus on today is a recent legislation that you sponsored, which established the Anti-Gun Violence and Prosperity Initiative Trust Fund, with an endowment totaling nearly $90 million over a 19-year term. Can you share with us more about this trust fund and what it will cover?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first, you should understand how it came about. And, for decades now, we've been complaining in our communities about gun violence. You always saw there would be a march. We had many discussions, but the county has really done little before to really address what the issues are, right? So, for instance, if you want to do more for these neighborhoods, you can improve the condition of the neighborhoods, right? You can provide better educational opportunities. You can provide jobs for the area. All of these things that you'll hear different people from the community talk about. But the problem that we've been seeing in Miami-Dade County is that no one is putting any money to the matter, right? And so what I want to do is to give a long-term solution. It's not the solution, it's part of the solution, but a long-term initiative to really and truly give people in those communities an opportunity to live without experiencing gun violence. And so the way that we thought would be best to do that, and from our office perspective, was to take an opportunity that I had where the county has rules that say that if a building is county owned within a certain commissioner's district, that commissioner has to sponsor the legislation in order for that facility to be named. So when the Heat Arena was up for its renaming, it had to come through my office. And with it having to come through my office, I took that as an opportunity to take the funding that would typically go with that arena that would have gone directly to the county, and the county would have used it on whatever it chose it to be. And I took that money and secured it for the Anti-Gun Violence and Prosperity Initiative, with the idea that we put money directly towards addressing issues that affect gun violence. But then also, most importantly, in the way that I saw it, was that give people, young people especially, an opportunity to grow up in communities where they're getting better training, they're getting new opportunities, and they won't choose to pick up a firearm. So what makes this special is that most of the money is actually being put into a program called Miami-Dade County's Fit to Lead program. The Fit to Lead program is not a new program. It's been around for quite some time, but we basically put steroids to it. And what that means is that now the kids are coming to these programs. They're learning about financial responsibility. They're meeting with industries. They're getting job training. They're doing a lot of different things that they would possibly get in other programs. But the big difference in this program is that they're paid to do it. So these kids are getting close to $15 an hour. And that's more than what some of their parents are making. And so it doesn't matter how many kids you have in your household. Each one of those kids can get paid up to $15 an hour to learn skills, to develop really the opportunities for themselves to be better citizens in Miami-Dade County. And we're not. And my thing is that I don't want the kids who are already doing well. So I don't want the kid who's on his way to the University of Miami. I don't want the kid who's on his way to FSU. I want the kid who has been arrested for offenses as a juvenile, who, if no one intervenes, he's probably not going to, or she's probably not going to do well in society. And we want to take those kids and turn them around. And so what you'll see, like right now, there's probably about 250 kids, but these are some of our most difficult kids to deal with. And my thought is, if we can intervene with those kids, we can turn them around. Then we don't have those kids picking up the firearms in the future.
I love that. And I'm so happy that you're bringing attention to the children who need this type of program the most. And I say that because I have been a mentor and a volunteer at one of our what they call alternative schools, right? And I don't see enough people from the community going to volunteer, and not just volunteer, but mentor and really listen to these students. And so, but these are unfortunately the students who are in the juvenile detention system, who are unfortunately impacted directly by gun violence, whether they're directly involved or indirectly involved because they're in a neighborhood or as a family member or whatever the case is. And oftentimes what would happen is people would go to the schools or to the neighborhoods. Oh, these kids they're too bad, or they're too, I can't deal with them. And it's unfortunate because all they need, and this came from their mouths to my ears, was people that would be committed to being there for them and showing them a different way. And it was not just going to come for a short period of time and then leave and never come back. And so I'm really happy that you're really focused and your program is really focused, because we do know that there are a lot of programs out there for youth. We know that. Yes. And a lot of them do focus on the kids that are already excelling. But we do need to uplift the kids who are not doing so well, or who don't have that attention, or who have been put in a category as bad kids that no one wants to deal with. So I look forward to seeing the outcomes of your program.
Yeah, what I've seen, there are great programs that exist, right? For instance, like the Children's Trust, Miami-Dade County, City of Miami, all these different municipalities, they fund programs that do a good job. But I had never run across a program that paid kids, right? And so I've seen programs where they give a stipend, and it'll be $1,000 for that kid, but and these are all things that I remember when we were trying to implement some of the things that I pushed for. But before this, I created something in the city of Miami called the Youth Employment Program, and it still exists today. The current commissioner, he reduced the funding on it, but ultimately what it does is it gives kids opportunities to have youth employment throughout the entire year. And those kids as well, they earn above a minimum wage. And so the idea is to get them to understand that working is honorable. Yeah. And that if you work and if you learn, then people will reward you with that, with better pay. And through those relationships, they can really develop opportunities for them in the future. And so when I think about it, right, if you have a household where each of the kids, there's 4 kids in that household that are getting paid $15 an hour, I mean, you really have now changed. That household, just in the children, has gone to $60 an hour. So not to mention the parents, or if it's one mother or whatever it may be, but they can really contribute now, because most of our kids who are in the juvenile justice system, who have these younger brothers and sisters, or their parents are not really there for them, they're already paying for things in their household. They're already buying their own clothes for school. They're already, taking care of their younger brothers and sisters. They're already worrying about whether or not the lights will be on. But now this takes that worry outside of it. You're literally taking someone through work out of poverty. And I think that's a powerful thing. And so, I just took a look at it from the perspective of the children, and what would the children need in order for them to be successful. And I find it very difficult to support a program where the only people who are getting paid are the adults who are administering the program. And then the kids who need the money the most have to just be lectured to about why they shouldn't sell drugs, why they shouldn't be in gangs and things of that nature, but they don't have an opportunity to really and truly to make a difference in their own lives.
I love that. So you're you're not only, and this is year round, right? This is not just a
Correct.
summer job. Okay.
That's
So
correct.
this is year round employment for young people. They're making above minimum wage, which I know you're definitely a strong supporter of that $15 an hour, because and overtime was one of the first areas to implement that for the program where they were working in the community. So I remember that. So I know you're a strong supporter of that, which is amazing. So they get a job year round. And I'm glad you pointed out, because I think a lot of times as individuals, we don't think about the challenges that youth face at home, and some of the reasons why they turn to the streets, right? Because, like you said, they're worried about, oh man, the lights are going to be turned off. I got to help support mom or dad. I got to help, take care of my younger brother or sister. It's all of a sudden, adulting has become a part of this child's life, right? So I'm glad that you're addressing that. Now, let me ask you another question. In your opinion, we talked about some of these nuances and causes of, some of the children's environment that they're in being some of the leading causes of the gun violence epidemic. What do you think are some of the other causes that is just causing this, not uprise, because I don't think that is an uprise. I think we've always had these challenges in our community. It's just that sometimes they get highlighted more than others. Of course, we know Chicago always get highlighted, right? But right here in Miami-Dade County and other communities in South Florida, we have these upticks, especially when kids are out of school, right? So what do you think are some of the other root causes behind this gun violence epidemic among our youth?
We're dealing with a different time, and I hate to create generalizations about things, but I mean there's some things that are just the truth. Clearly, having easier access to firearms is one of the root causes to everything. And I don't and what I mean by that is that when you have an easier access to a firearm, you tend to go for it. You tend to use it, right? Whereas in the past, it would have been a lot more difficult for you to have access to that same firearm. It was no change in laws, but just how much they are readily accessible. So I think that's certainly one of the things that has something to do with it. I think our society is very sensitive. I think we have a lot of sensitive young people nowadays. I remember, growing up in Liberty City, where it was a real thing when you had to deal with that bully every single day, right? When you had to walk home and sometimes you had to fight, and I mean, every single day you had to go back and challenge yourself and challenge the other person that was made your life very difficult. I mean, those are real things. I don't think that would exist to the extent today because of gun violence. I think people are a bit more hesitant about how they go about challenging other people because so many people have access to firearms. And the sensitivity that people have. A lot of the children today, they're more likely to pick up a firearm than to actually engage in some sort of hand-to-hand combat. And the rise of social media and access to cameras and causing embarrassment that lasts a lifetime, I think is a real pressure. That didn't exist back in the day. Back in the day, you were someone, they told the story, man, such and such beat up on such and such. You had to be there, and it was this, it was that, and it went around for a while. And I'm sure you remember when kids used to say, "Okay, if you did want to fight," the kids would say, "Okay, I'm not James. I'll beat you up." You know what I mean? So you live through almost the stories of the past. But nowadays, I mean, instantly it goes onto social media. It is a constant pressure. Kids live in their social media accounts nowadays, and so they don't really check out of that. To them, this is the new world, and unfortunately, I think that it creates a lot of pressure on the child. But a lot of the same sort of issues that we were dealing with then, they're dealing with now, right? We were dealing with our friends dying in our community. We were dealing with not having enough access to quality foods. We were dealing with the lack of jobs within these neighborhoods. I mean, during the time that I was growing up in the community, we were dealing with all these issues. I'm a post. I grew up in a post riot Liberty City, right? It challenged us because we just didn't have the access to certain things that other people had in other communities. And so that's my challenge as elected official. How can I create the community that I want to live in? You know, I shouldn't have to move to some other area that's beautiful like Coral Springs in order for me to have the experience that I would like to have right in my backyard. And the wonderful thing about what's happening in Miami right now, because I represent a lot of, not just Miami, but I'm from like the Miami proper area, is that a lot of investment is coming to these spaces. And so we have to determine in government, how is it that we can have everyone sharing the opportunities that are coming to these spaces?
Absolutely. Now, you talked about something that, is often brushed over. I've had this conversation, whether it's law enforcement or other community leaders, about the access, just the easy access to firearms. Does this legislation that you sponsored, does it cover any type of program? I know there's been gun buybacks before. I'm not sure the effectiveness of those gun buyback programs, but does it cover any type of programming around the access to firearms or education around firearms or anything of that nature?
Some of the money does go to supporting law enforcement and their activities. I'm sure law enforcement talks about access to firearms, and we know that Miami-Dade County and amongst other municipalities also participate in gun buyback programs, which help reduce the number of firearms that are in households that could be stolen because they're not being used, or some people who don't feel comfortable with them, they can get rid of them in a responsible way. All those things help. I don't think there's one magic pill to all of this. Really and truly, like, this is, it's interesting because you'll hear Democrats and Republicans on the left and on the right talk about different things about these things. But as someone who really lives in these neighborhoods and who've experienced gun violence time and time again through family and through personal experiences, and own firearms myself, I don't like to politicize it. What I think is what we need to really discuss is the person. And we have to do more to make our children in our neighborhoods who choose to use guns to express themselves violently, is that they have a future. And if we can convince a generation of kids that we care about them, that they have a future in this community, that there are jobs that are waiting for them, that they too can own a home, they can take a woman on a date, or a man can, or depending if a women like to treat men, a woman can take a man on a date. They can enjoy, they can enjoy the beverages with each other on vacation and put their foot in the sand and not have to look over their shoulder wondering if someone's trying to kill them. I think, in the time that I spent in the juvenile, I still represent juveniles today, but when I would speak with kids who were facing charges, I would have these frank conversations with them about things that they never experienced before. And you can tell that these are things that they want. They just never seen it and never thought that they could have it. And so I think if we teach more about really taking care of the whole child, then as we move forward in the future, we can raise a generation of kids who choose not to engage in gun violence. And what I found is that when kids or even adults have jobs, they work from 9 to 5, and they when they get home, they want to eat dinner, watching television, and get to bed, right? So prepare for the next day. You're typically not seeing people who are committing these sorts of crimes working a 9 to 5, then getting off and say, "Oh, on the way home, I'm going to commit this drive-by." It just doesn't work that way, right? Obviously, you have crimes that come of passion with lovers and friends and things like that happen. But the sort of gun violence that we've seen where kids are taking firearms and shooting up entire lines of clubs and other mass shootings that we've seen, and we've always seen in Miami-Dade County, that doesn't happen from readily employed people. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. And so we have to do better on teaching our young people that they matter, that they have a future, and that they can amount to something great. And I think the best way to go about doing that is to actually get started with it early, right? Don't give them the promise of a job. Give them a job.
Yeah.
Right. No. Don't send black men walking through the neighborhood saying, "Hey, you too can solve forest fires." Make them a forest fighter. You know what I mean? Give them the actual experience of doing it, and so that they believe, I can actually do this.
No, I love that. So let me ask you, this is a 19-year fund. What are some outcomes that you would like to see and you and your colleagues would like to see over this 19-year period? Do you guys have some measurable outcomes, or do you know how you plan on measuring the success of this program over time? And then particularly for you, Commissioner Hardemon, for your district, do you have any specific outcomes that you'd like to see?
Fortunately, this is something that the entirety of Miami-Dade County has accepted, and so the mayor is directly responsible for presenting the outcomes of these sorts of the funding and the programs. And so, but overall, what I look forward to is the reduction in actual gun violence and shootings by especially juveniles within our community. I want to see kids from this program, which means that these are the kids who are already in our system. So most of these kids, I call them Morris's kids, named after Morris Copeland, who's directly responsible for a lot of the kids who are in the juvenile justice system. So these are Morris's kids, right? These kids are the ones who are more likely than not to reoffend. And so I want to be able to tell wonderful stories about them. And, imagine one of them becoming the director of corrections, right? And being able to look back and say, man, if it wasn't for this program, I would not have been able to do X, Y, and Z. And I especially wouldn't be here in this position that I'm in right now. And so the idea is to not only encourage them, but their friends, because I think that once you have the non-believers who hang around that kid that may be popular because he gets himself into a lot of trouble, he keeps a lot of money in his pocket, but he's now in this program, they may say, hey, I want to get in the program too. So you may have a sea change, I think, in the behavior of the kids that are most worrisome in Miami-Dade County, because what happens is it's not all kids that cause a lot of the trouble in our community. It's some kids, right? But those some kids do enough damage to really put Miami-Dade County on its heels. And so we want to ensure that we take those kids out of the mix. And so if I can look into the future, I would say that, and I would increase this fund. So this is how we start, right? This is the initial investment, but I don't think this is enough. I mean, this is a few $1 million that go into solving these issues a year. But imagine if each of the commissioners from various districts continue to pour into this sort of fund. Imagine if the private sector say, I like that program that they're doing. I want to pour into that fund. Right now, we're using the naming rights from FTX, but what if there was a source of funding that people were unselfish with, that they could use to pour into that fund? And now you have more resources. You can hire more kids. You can give them better experiences. When I was in the city of Miami, we created the anti-poverty fund, which that's how I birthed the youth employment program. And there, I was putting more than $600,000 a year so kids can have employment throughout the entirety of the year. And so without that money, without creating that anti-poverty initiative, it would not have been done. Those kids would not have those jobs. And when you listen to adults in the past, they talk about the parks and the parks program and the youth jobs that they would get over the summer and how important they were. I'm one of those kids that grew up in a summer program where it was important for us to have that program because we had breakfast and lunch and snacks. And so, our families, all we had to do was take care of dinner for us. And it didn't cost us an arm and a leg. It was free to us, right? And what I found is that these things just don't exist to the extent they need to for these communities where this sort of violence is happening. And I've also seen where in Miami-Dade County, we treat everyone the same. And you can't do that, right? I think most parents understand if you have two kids and one of them suffers in reading, you get them a reading coach, right? For him to get up to the level that he needs to be in. I think everyone truly understands that. But for some reason, when it comes down to resources in Miami-Dade County, they want to split everything equally. And they don't want to put the resources where the resources are needed most because it seems to be unfair. Why should they get more? Well, because they have more gun violence.
Right. Their needs are different.
Right? The needs are different. The needs are greater. Right. And some kids you don't have to give that talking to. They just go on, they do what they need to do. And some kids you really need to spend more time with breaking things down. It's just a reality into things. And so when the county stops being so competitive with each other, and when they start to really and truly invest in the areas that need it most, unashamed, right? Okay, I represent District X, but District Y has greater need, and so we should put more money in District Y. And I think the money should go towards things that really truly make a remarkable difference. And so I think investing in people, especially children, not in a haphazard, makes my program look good way, but in a way that really and truly invests into their pockets, into their households, into their families. I think that makes sense. And so, with this, I just really wanted to break the mold out. And what I found is that, you find a lot of programs that are good programs that want to do great things and participate. However, in order for them to be involved, I would have to put money into their program. And what I try to remind people is that this fund is not about the programming for your great program. This fund is about the programming for these children, right? And so I want to see the bulk of that investment actually go towards that family, towards the kids. And it's a remarkable time when you start to do this because, look, I mean, on a federal level, Biden and even Trump, we're giving all this money back, right? Giving all these money to people. If you have children now, you can get up to $3,600 towards your child tax credit to make your household expenses a bit more manageable. I mean, these are things that I've always known government can do, but no one had the courage to do. And so what we try to do in the city and now in the county is just have the courage to do something different that really and truly will matter to the people.
I think that's remarkable, and for you to make that bold move is even more remarkable. And it just really goes to show your character and your commitment. And I want to ask you, like, what type of support, if any, and strategic collaborations or partnerships are needed from the community to ensure that this program is a success?
One of the first things is that the families who need them should reach out to Miami-Dade County. The families who say, hey, I need my son or daughter in this program because I know that my son or daughter is the next shooter. Right? See, the thing about the kids who are committing these crimes, they don't have their own apartments.
Yeah.
They don't own a home. Right? They don't own things that they're sleeping under someone else's roof. Someone else is putting food on their table. Right? Someone who knows the propensity of them in the violence, who knows who their friends are. Someone who knows that, hey, you don't just get new clothes all the time if I haven't paid for it. And so I need those parents who know those kids to step up, because we in our community have to take responsibility for the children, at least in our household, right? How can I go to your household and tell you, hey, I need you to clean up your household? Meanwhile, my child is stealing from the local food market. I wanted to say corner store, but this is legacy. You got to dress it up a little bit, right?
You didn't say corner store.
But that's what I mean. You have to take charge of your household, and so this program is meant to energize that household, right? So if you believe that your child is one of those kids, then let us help you. Let us infuse some money. Let us infuse the training. Let us infuse the things that you need assistance with in order to guarantee or at least eliminate or reduce the likelihood that your child picks up a firearm instead of a book.
Yeah. No, that's good. Or if you know a child in your neighborhood, and I know sometimes we've gotten a little silent as neighbors because we, either it's not our business or we don't want to potentially get caught up in any crosshairs or whatever. So sometimes we go silent. But I would also say, if you know anyone in your neighborhood who you think could benefit from this program as well. Would you agree, Commissioner Hardemon?
Absolutely. And we know who they are, right? I mean, still to this day, I hear people tell me about when I used to walk through the neighborhood past their house carrying my backpack for baseball practice or carrying my other bags for football practice. I mean, people have these memories because many times we know the kids in the neighborhood and what they're up to because you see it, right? Yeah. And so I just think that, we truly have to take responsibility for the children in our community. It is not the government's fault. It is not your neighbor's fault. It is not. We have to get out of putting the blame elsewhere because we don't want to take responsibility for the person that lives in our household or for our own actions. right? And so, can government help? Of course it can, and government's here to help, right? Can other people play a part in it? Of course they can. And we want to give you that avenue forward. But the only way that we're going to be able to move through this is if we take responsibility for our actions and for the actions of those who live in our household.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, one last question for you, Commissioner Hardemon. Is there a website, or if someone's interested, do they contact your office, or where do they find the information to either get involved, refer a child or parent? How do we get this information to our audience?
And that's a great question. And I'm getting the I don't have the email address. I mean the phone number right in front of me, but well, let's do this then. What I would say is you reach out to my office, because obviously this exists all over Miami-Dade County, and this is not just a District 3 specific thing. So there are districts and all over the place, but I don't have the information right in front of me for the Fit to Lead program and their phone numbers. And so our office number is 305-636-2311. And I might have given you, I have two people here in front of me that may have given me the wrong phone number. So, one.
You can tell me again, what is it?
Yeah. So the phone number is 305 636
Yes.
2331.
2331. Okay.
Right. That will at least, you can get in contact with our office. And then what we'll do from there is we'll provide all the other information for the Fit to Lead program. But Fit to Lead should have its own contact information, so that we can direct the kids through other districts who are a part of other districts to these opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, we've definitely put it in the comments as well as displayed it here on the screen. Commissioner Hardemon, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I'd just like to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve. It is clear that Miami-Dade County needs a leadership right now that's willing to think outside the box. And I know many times we like to hear the buzzwords and things that sound good when we want to select our next leaders. But I would dare to say that we need leaders who are going to be willing to make decisions that are not necessarily popular, that go beyond what's been done in the past. I mean, we can't book bag give away our way to a better community. Right, we have to make more challenging, more thoughtful decisions that are a bit more calculated. And sometimes you have to do it alone because everyone doesn't necessarily see the vision. And so in this, I'm glad that the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniela Levine Cava, saw the beauty in the program that I was trying to introduce and really took a hold of it and is now running with it. And so this is a program that under her leadership in the county, I think is going to grow tremendously. And I think it has a lot of great opportunity. And so, I would be remiss if I didn't give her her shout out for believing in what we're doing. And this is a long-term solution that I think is going to have some tremendous benefit. It's going to exist long after I stopped serving in Miami-Dade County, and that's what it should be, because this is supposed to be about the kids in the neighborhoods. And so now, when we march, let's enroll kids into these programs instead of just having media attention about what's going on. Let's introduce some of these solutions that make sense for the children.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. And here's the information one more time for Commissioner Keon Hardemon's office, District 3. You can call this number 305-636-2331 for more information. Thank you, Commissioner Hardemon. Stay with me one moment as I have some announcements to make. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors again, Broward Health, AARP, the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. Please check out our current issue featuring the top educators in South Florida, as well as save the date for our next issue, which is going to be South Florida's 40 Under 40 Black Leaders of Today and Tomorrow, which will be available August 22nd. Also, please remember to tune in to our show, Soul, hosted by Nikki Jellin, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. as we disseminate intellectual entertainment on fashion, arts and culture, relationships, mental health, and food in South Florida. You can check all of this out and subscribe to our newsletter at miamediagrp.com. As always, please share this video, as there is definitely someone out there that can benefit from this information. So please share it across your social media networks, as well as save the date and join us again next Thursday at noon. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Thursday.
Thank you.